So I love the True Guys, and Scott specifically is really clever with the wording right here, right now. And really it's intended to be, what are you doing right now to help differentiate yourself from the competition and sell? But when I got the invitation to speak, I told Scott, I'm only gonna do this if it's the Jesus Jones right here, right now. Is anybody here familiar with that song?
Right here, right now.
Okay, so that song came out and I was like 10 or 11 years old, and I saw it on MTV. For the younger generation, that's a television station that played music videos. But I never understood what the song actually meant until I went back and listened to it recently. And if you know the lyrics, it's right here, right now. There's no other place I'd like to be or rather be, watching the world wake up from history. And so that really spoke to me because of the work that we're doing. And if you think about what the meaning of that song was, it was written back in a time of change where there was a big upheaval happening against these powers that were controlling everything. It was about the end of the Cold War and the fall of the Soviet Union. But it really spoke to me in the type of work that we're trying to do with our clients. And when you think about healthcare, right? So you think about all the powers that are at play in healthcare, whether it's the big insurance carriers or the hospital systems that we deal with, or even the brokerage community at large, the way it all operates. What I'm going to share with you today is a pitch deck that we gave to a prospective client just a few weeks ago. Some of this may look a little bit familiar to you because I've given part of this presentation in another meeting, but I want to set it up for you. So they only gave me 15 minutes, so I don't have time to give you the full pitch. Okay? So what I really want to try to accomplish today is to share with you kind of the setup of who we give this talk to, the angle that we use, and the way we try to differentiate ourselves. And we've used this to win business. And so for those of you that know me, we're big on self-funding. We use MGUs and consortiums and captives and those sorts of things. And I know that many in the room today maybe don't do that type of business. But I would encourage you not to tune out for a couple of reasons. One, we use this presentation primarily for groups that are currently fully insured. And we win fully insured business all the time using this presentation. Because some of those companies, they're not ready yet to make a transition into this business model, okay? But the other reason why it's important to be able to understand, in my opinion, is because clients are hungry to understand why. Why are my costs going up? Why am I not able to control the costs? What else is out there? And many of the clients that hire us using this presentation hire us and they tell us it's because you told me something that nobody else has in the last decade. You shared with me what's going on in healthcare, and I trust you and believe that you're the person and you're the firm that can help us when we are ready to make that transition into this business model. So just to kind of set the stage really quick, this is an actual presentation we gave to a prospective client that I believe we're going to win very soon. Fingers crossed. It's about 500 lives. First meeting, kind of to Jen Homer's point, we show up with a legal pad and ask lots of questions. So the first meeting is nothing but discovery, what's working, what's not, uncovering the pain points. We ask for some data and some information, and we agree to come back and present, if we're fit, a strategic plan. So as we go through this pitch deck, you're gonna see a couple of things. You're gonna notice it's very vague. Because I believe the most important thing is the storyteller, the person that's communicating the message, the consultant. But also, if they were to take this presentation and flip it to their broker doesn't have the key. He doesn't have the legend. He doesn't understand the story that we've told. You can't take this presentation without the story and do anything with it. But we give all of the information to the client. So let's walk through it real quick. So I always start off with an agenda. I've always been told 3 things, right? So number 1 is really important. State of the healthcare market. What's actually happening? This sets the stage for the solution. We talk about some of the things that they experience in their renewal, and then the strategy that we're going to use to help them. So this group just renewed. They were a 1-1 renewal. We're meeting with them in February. As you're going to see, they didn't have a very good renewal, and the broker didn't have a good explanation as to why. So in our market, so I'm in Texas, of all the people that we talk to, on a spectrum that think healthcare is inefficient, but a lot of them lean towards this other end of the spectrum that they believe healthcare is completely broken or even rigged. And you have to be careful when you give this presentation because sometimes it can anger people, and you want to make sure that you're not driving the knife too deep, right? So we always start off by explaining what's happening in healthcare. The 3 big things: lack of transparency, rising costs, and consolidation in the marketplace, both with insurance companies and in the hospital systems that limit competition. And what we're painting the picture of is there's a system designed where everybody else's interests are aligned against yours. We want to set that stage. And so we explained to the group, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, the New York Times, a lot of major publications have done a really good job of highlighting specific issues in healthcare, but nobody's really putting the entire story together to help you understand what's actually happening and how it's affecting not only you and your company and the value of your company, but most importantly, your employees. It's interesting when you look at the information, healthcare bankrupts most people in America. When you look at the bankruptcy statistics, vast majority of them are due to medical bills. Most of those people had health insurance. System's not working. That's not what insurance is designed to do. So we give them an example. This is in Dallas. With medical transparency, Baylor posted their pricing, and we explained to the group, it's interesting when you look at the pricing for something as simple as an x-ray, how without insurance, you can actually pay less than with your insurance plan. And this particular group was with Blue Cross and had transitioned to United Healthcare. And it's mind-boggling to these folks because they ask the question, wait a minute, I'm part of a national buying group at scale. How am I not able to pay less than somebody that doesn't even have insurance or a cash payer? And so that's where we start driving the conversation as to how the system's designed and how carriers make money. So we take this information straight from the carrier's website. This one is Cigna. But we explain to them the profit motive that carriers have. Their profit margins are capped at 15%. Many of these carriers are publicly traded. Do they want to make 15% of $1 billion in premium or 15% of $1 trillion? Right? So that kind of spins in that owner's mind because we're speaking specifically to the owner and the CFO. The wheels start turning. And then we show what the impact has been for these particular carriers. You can see with United Healthcare, Cigna, Anthem Blue Cross. Aetna's a little hard because they're not traded anymore. They're owned by CVS. But you can see that they've all flourished under this system. So we're painting the picture, how the carriers make money, how it's impacting them. We explain how PPO discounts work. Back in 1980, you got a 20% discount. Today, some of the carriers in our marketplace are advertising 60% discounts. If the discounts are going up, why are my costs not going down? It's simply an accounting trick, right? We just a discount off of a higher inflated number. So we start, again, planting that further seed of maybe this isn't the most efficient way to do this. So we have the insurance carriers. Now we have to pull the hospitals into it. Now the hospitals are not the bad guys. They're just simply trying to maximize what they do, right? But what's interesting, when we look at the information and we compete in DFW, Houston, San Antonio, Austin area, that's where our offices are, that's where our clients are, so this speaks to them. This data is available. Most of the hospitals are nonprofit or not-for-profit, or they accept Medicare. So their financials are publicly posted. So we can aggregate this data and we can share. When you're talking to the hospital CEO or CFO in your local market, they may claim we're not making money, but the data suggests otherwise. And where do they get it? From the insurance company. Who gets it from who? The employer. But now we have to pull in the brokers. And so most of the brokerages that we compete against are the big nationals. That's kind of our target. We're competing really in that 50 to 1,000 employer group. And so a lot of groups are familiar with the way brokers are compensated now, either commission or a per head fee. But what most of them don't understand is the carrier override business. And so we want to paint that picture for them. And it's interesting, most of these carriers, the big ones are publicly traded. You can actually find this information in their 10Ks. You'd be surprised to know, just on an aggregate level, they make 8, 9, some of them are large, 9-figure carrier overrides. And so the question is, what other options have you seen? And most of these groups will tell us, well, we only see Blue Cross or United Healthcare. Those are really the only two options that we see. But you want to know why? It's because those brokers get large bonuses on the back end. And so in our opinion, it creates a conflict of interest. It skews their judgment and gives them the disincentive to show you something that might cannibalize their block of business with those carriers. So now we're positioning ourselves as independent. We don't answer to carriers. We're unbiased. We're going to do what's best for you. When you put all these pieces together, this is the Bureau of Labor and Statistics data, you can see how this has impacted groups. Hospital and medical costs are the most inflationary items in our economy. What are the dynamics that drive these industries? versus the ones that are, pretty level or deflationary. Lack of competition, lack of data for consumers to make decisions, lack of alternatives. If you're gonna have a baby or you're gonna have a hip surgery, where are you gonna go? You're gonna go right down the street to the hospital that your doctor, who by the way is owned by the hospital now, refers you to. It's completely misaligned incentive. So the question we get asked, is there a way to insert some of these dynamics, multiple sources of data, create consumerism? Can we take some of the dynamics that drive the lower bottom of the chart up into the top? And the answer is yes, and that's what we're going to present to them. This just illustrates the vicious cycle. Hospitals egregiously bill the carriers pass that on to the company passes it on to the employee, just to try to further illustrate the way this works. Now we've included this just because this rhymes or this resonates with groups. The way most of the companies address the problem with plan design changes, they change carriers, they're shifting costs to employees, they're doing those sorts of things, and it has unintended consequences. As my deductible doubles, as your average employee, it's now $5,000, I'm gonna delay my care. I may not get my medication. I'm gonna be less satisfied with my benefits. I'm not gonna use this until I get really sick, and that creates other problems. And at the end of the day, it's not really addressing the major cost driver, which is claims. When you send a group to market, Blue Cross versus United versus Cigna, they're simply competing on their profit margin. The claims are gonna be the claims. You've probably already heard that, right? If you're fully insured or you're just in an ASO model, whatever the claims are, it varies a little bit, but for the most part, they're competing on their profit margin. They're buying business. And this particular group got a very large increase that was justified, and another carrier came in and bought the business for a year. So now we start painting the picture of how we solve this issue. This is the way that we design this, and I don't have time to get into what Benefits Insider is, but it's a plan. This is what we call our plan. This is what we do for our own agency. As an insider to the benefits industry, we're going to peel back the veil of secrecy and show you how we design our own benefits and how to align these to better serve your company and the employees. And it really centers on claims cost management, which is the majority of what your premium is derived off of. And we want to make sure that we align our compensation. So we no longer work off of a commission basis. It's a capitated fee. We want to make sure that we sit on the same side of the table with our clients. So just a couple of things to set the stage for this particular group. They got a large increase from Blue Cross. United Healthcare came in and bought the business. What I want to make sure I highlight to this business owner, a 28% increase from Blue Cross Blue Shield was a $1 million increase in their premium. So put that into perspective for this business owner. They're private, but companies in this particular industry are selling at a 5 to 7 time multiple. So I tell the owner, John, if you would have accepted that Blue Cross Blue Shield increase, you would have lost $5 to $7 million of value in your company. Because remember, it's based off of what the company earns. They just basically reduced their earnings by $1 million. So you took a pretty decent option going to United Healthcare, but it still took $1.5 million to $2 million out of your company value. At the end of the day, you still have no control over your claims or your premium for next year. So what does that mean for next year? Because we know United Healthcare bought your business. They're going to increase your premiums probably. So what does that mean for your renewal in year 2? Are we going to be stuck in the same position? You just acquired 5 other companies. Your head count's now going from 500 to 900. So what is that? Everybody talks about the great resignation. I don't call it that. I call it the great rotation. We're getting rid of some of our employees and we're bringing somebody else's in. We're one hire away from our next largest claimant. Think about that for a minute. As they hire 400 people, how many of those 400 are going to be taking a high-cost medication, undergoing cancer treatment, or have a dependent or a spouse that's doing the same? What are we going to do about that? So what does that mean, more importantly, business owner? You're not going to sell today. What does that mean in 3 to 5 years? What's the value of your company going to be? How is this going to negatively impact your company? So what do you do about that? So for us, this is the solution, right, for ABC Company. We want to make sure that we undergo the underwriting process and we walk them through step by step what we're going to do. That we're going to be able to use your claims data, use analytics and financial forecasting to help understand the changes that we make, the impact they're going to have, and be able to measure those and adjust as necessary. But the 2 biggest pieces that we talk about are going to be the healthcare logistics. That's how are we managing the supply chain? How are we making sure we're getting a fair price for what our employees are buying for healthcare? And then there's a small section that we talk about prescription strategy. In our opinion, that's low-hanging fruit. So in our market, self-funding, which is what this is, has been a dirty word for our target market. Kind of that 50 to 500 is the real sweet spot for us. We go up to 1,000, but that 500 and under size employer group, the brokerage community in our markets has conditioned clients to believe it's scary. Why would you take the risk? We have the opposite opinion. Why would you take the risk of staying where you are? So the way that we help clients understand how to self-fund securely is the same way they manage their personal finances. Think about what's more risky, buying an individual stock or investing in a high-quality mutual fund. So company A in this particular slide is perhaps having a high claims year, but there's company B and C that are having low claims years to offset the volatility. Everybody benefits in that model. This is the way, whether you're talking about an MGU or a consortium or a captive, this is the way you do it, in our opinion, safely. And then we piece together what we're going to do for this particular client over a 3-year horizon, and it's a living and breathing document. We adjust it every single year. This is just a very generic version, but our clients get a very detailed version of this so that we can meet annually to look at what we're doing and is it working. And then we share with them how clients can actually reduce the cost of healthcare using some of the programs that we have. So whether it's direct contracts, which we do, or we use vendors to do that, or we manage pharmacy. These were examples that actually popped up in their claims history that we were able to get. And we show that if you look at the data, and all of us in the room know this, if you've got 100 employees, not all 100 of those employees are incurring major claims, right? It's like 5 of them. So how do we touch and actually improve the lives of these 5 people, lower your costs at the same time, and provide health care at 0 cost to your employees and actually make it a real benefit? This is how we do it. If you look, using direct agreements for orthopedic surgeries, imaging, those sorts of things, we're able to provide a better benefit, lower your costs at the same time. Again, this is intended to be very generic. If I gave you this slide, if you're USI or Marsh or Gallagher, they don't know what this is intentionally. It's by design. So we were able to get some basic data on some of their large brand medications, and using this data, we're working with a pharmacy partner that can look at it and say, this is what it would have been under our, just a generic, it's not exact because we don't have the exact data, but we can get an indication of what the savings might actually be. So we can show that on your highest cost medications on the brand side, that there's a 40% savings. It's a low-hanging fruit. We're gonna get the same drugs for your employees. Just having a transparent pass-through contract, we're gonna save you money. But the big money is on specialty medications. What's interesting about this, there are 6 people that incur over $400,000 in specialty medication claims. This was the cost of their increase. If we're able to address this one item, we can basically take away the increase that they got from United Healthcare. And in doing so, with various methods, whether it's specialty pharmacy management or copay assistance or international sourcing or patient assistance programs, I know some of us are all doing variations of this, we're able to lower that cost by $285,000. And so then we end with a case study. This is an actual client of mine that hired, you can't see this, but in 2019, we implemented the program. The orange line is fully insured. These are their actual renewals. They're like 8, 10, and 16%. And then I trended it just to be conservative. If they were to have stayed at 5%, which I think is very conservative, considering they had multiple cancers, big COVID claims, new high-cost specialty medications that rolled through the plan. But when you look at how they actually performed, you can see in our model, they're saving money. And what you can't, I don't think anybody can see this, but over what we're projecting is to be a $1.3 million savings over 4 years in this sort of program. So I kind of give this example, and they're a reference to help the client understand similar size, perhaps somebody that's winning doing this. And then the last piece of this is tying it back to how the client or prospective client operates their business. So we took this from their social media, And we explain to them that we want to use the same process that you're using to help your clients increase quality, accountability, and streamline the consumer purchasing process. Let us help you do that for your employees and your business. And then we close with that. And then we show, because having a team is important, because it's important. I can't tell you why, but it's important. Somebody told me that. So, there we go. That's it.